Morning, Abotai. Erev Shabbat Shalom. We're speaking about some of the halachot of mezuzah. A common question is if a person has a porch or a balcony, which way to put the mezuzah in. There's a famous Gemara in Masechet Yomad Daf Yud Aleph. The Gemara tells us, we learn out from the pasuk, Al mezuzot betecha derech bi'atcha, which means that the mezuzah always has to be put on the right side going in to the house or room. Bait in the Torah is interchangeable. Sometimes it could mean a house, sometimes a room, but always should be on the right side going in. The question is, how do you look at a porch? So there's a Maharil, Rabbi Yaakov Molin, who was asked this question, and he says that if there's a chatzir, there's a yard that's attached to the house, without access to the yard from the Reshut Rabim, from a public domain, from the street, which means the only access in and out of that yard is from the house, he writes that derech bi'ah, the going in the right side, is considered from the house to the porch because that is the access point. Nevertheless, there are certain poskim that disagree with the Maharil, the Beit Meir, Rav Meir Posner, and others disagree, and they say no, it has to be put on the right side from the yard, from the porch, into the house. The Agon Chazon Ish rules in accordance with that. Most Ashkenazim do that way, which is on the right from the porch into the house. Nevertheless, Maran Zichron Bracha in Yabia Omer disagrees with this Beit Meir and the Chazon Ish. He brings Re'ayot from Masechet Mezuzah to the Maharil, and therefore he says that the minhag of the Sfaradim is always to put the Mezuzah on the right side, going from the house to the porch. Now, very important to realize, this only applies if the porch doesn't have any access from the street, or if the yard doesn't have access from the street, it's completely gated off, and the only way in or out is from the house. If that's not the case, if there is access to the yard or porch from the street, it's a totally different halacha, so that's not what we're talking about right now. Also, Maran Zichron Bracha writes that a person should never make a bracha on a mezuzah for a porch, and he says the reason for that is because there's ample reason to be poteroto to begin with. He brings several reasons. First of all, because the porch doesn't have a roof, and the Rosh and other poskim say that a porch that doesn't have a roof is completely patur from mezuzah. Even if it did have a roof, many porches do not have kedil rabea arba amot al arba amot, which means you need 16 square amot, which is about, give or take, 6.5, let's say, about between 35 and 40 square feet. So usually that doesn't happen. Sometimes it does. So even though a person wants to put a mezuzah, which is tavo alav bracha, you really should, but certainly not to make a bracha, because many times this porch, according to the letter of the law, will be patur for mezuzah to begin with. So that's that. Just a public service announcement about this coming Shabbat. Although in Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum today, you should read the Haftarah of Parashat Pinchas, which is in Melachim. Tomorrow in Bet HaKnesset, since we're already in the 3 weeks, this is the first of the 3 Shabbatot before, during the 3 weeks before Tisha B'Av, we start reading the Bet HaKnesset, Latad Pur'anuta, which means tomorrow in Bet HaKnesset, the Haftarah being read is that of Divrei Yirmiyahu ben Chilkiyahu, which is that of Parashat Matot. So just don't get confused. Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum, read the Haftarah of Pinchas. In Bet HaKnesset tomorrow, you read the Haftarah of Parashat Matot, Yom Tov, and Shabbat Shalom.